Hello and welcome to the Individualized Education Program IEP Overview. Thank you for joining us on this journey to understand the IEP document. This on-demand video is designed to help you understand the IEP document in a simple, supportive way. Whether you're a parent, a young person with a disability, or someone supporting a family, this information is for you. You and your child are key to the development of this document. As the experts on your child's strengths, challenges, and individualized needs, you are essential in providing information to the IEP team. This ensures that an appropriate, individualized education program is developed to meet your child's specific needs. As a disclaimer, the information shared today is meant to be helpful and informative, but is not meant to take the place of legal or medical advice. If you have any questions regarding anything legal or medical, please speak to those professionals. You can pause and rewind or skip ahead at any time. This video was recorded so you can return to it whenever you need to. Take a moment to get your child's IEP document so you can follow along with us as we're going through the IEP document. Also, feel free to take notes or to use the reflection questions provided. So our learning goals for today: in this video, you will learn the importance of communication in developing the individualized education program, what an IEP is, the essential components of the IEP and what goes into those components, and your role in developing the IEP for your child. Communication is the foundation of all human interaction. It's more than talking. It includes actively listening and not listening to respond, body language, tone of voice, and even how we act. Effective communication is clear, complete, and brief. It also means managing our emotions, asking questions, and practicing empathy. What is an individualized education program? So the IEP is a written plan that explains how a student with a disability will receive special education and related services. It covers academic, non-academic, and extracurricular areas. The IEP supports the whole child, not just their schoolwork. So what the IEP covers. This includes academic learning that includes but is not limited to reading, writing, science, math, and social studies. The non-academic areas focus on the skills students need for daily life, relationships, independence, and emotional well-being, which include social emotional skills like identifying emotions, behavioral skills such as following classroom rules, functional skills such as time management, or peer relationships and social participation, such as learning how to work with a group or another student. These areas are just as important as reading or math. Extracurricular activities include after-school programs sponsored by the schools, such as sports activities, social clubs and peer groups, or interest-based fun activities. The IEP is meant to help your child access all parts of school life. Here is an example of what the IEP document will look like. This is the student identifying page that talks about, it provides your student name, date of birth, their student number, their state ID. It also provides really important information on the IEP review due date and the reevaluation due date. So this is what it may look like, of course, filled out with your child's information. Here is an example of what this part of the IEP document looks like. And this is where the school documents all their efforts to schedule the IEP meeting with you all as a family. So any phone call, any email that they provide, and confirmation of the meeting will all be listed in this area. Next, you have eligibility. To receive an IEP, a student must qualify under one of the disability categories in federal law. This includes autism, specific learning disability, speech or language impairment, emotional disturbance, deafness, a developmental delay, hearing impairment, an intellectual disability, multiple disabilities, orthopedic impairment, other health impairment, a traumatic brain injury, or visual impairment, which includes blindness. A disability category does not define your child. It simply helps the child understand that supports are needed. And this is an example of what it may look like on your child's IEP once they are identified to have a disability. In this case, this child was identified to have a specific learning disability. The areas of qualification or eligibility are in written language, math, and reading. And it also has a disability primary cause code as dyslexia. So this is just an example for you to be able to see what it may look like in your child's IEP document. Additionally, this is an example of IEP team members and invitees for the IEP meeting. So this is everybody that is either invited, consulted, or um, attending the IEP meeting. Of course, any of the parents will be there, the child, the case manager, any of the general education teachers. If a child has a medical need, then the medical nursing services, and then the local education agency representative. So this is the IEP. This is what the IEP looks like with all its supports and everything put together. So it is important to look at the IEP document as a house. Every part has a purpose, and each part depends on the others to stay strong. When families understand how the pieces fit together, the whole process makes more sense. Just like a house has a foundation, the IEP has a foundation. The foundation is the present levels of academic achievement and functional performance, or also known as the PLAAFP. Next, you have the steps, which represent the goals and the objectives. And then you also have the walls and the inside of the house. These are the supplementary services and aids. And last, you have the roof, which includes the least restrictive environment, or LRE, free appropriate public education, also known as FAPE, FAPE, their rights, and the prior written notice. We will discuss these more in detail in each corresponding section. So, headed to the foundation, which is the present levels of academic achievement and functional performance. The PLAAFP is just like a house needs a solid base. The PLAAFP is the foundation of the IEP that provides a clear picture of what the student can do right now, what the student struggles with, how the disability affects learning and participation, data from assessments, observation, and family input. A house with a weak foundation will crack. An IEP with a weak PLAAFP will not support the student well. That's why the PLAAFP must be accurate, detailed, and based on real data. And right here is an example of what the PLAAFP might include in your child's IEP. Again, every child's IEP looks different. This is just an example so you can see what area it may be in and what it includes. Next, you have the medical information that affects learning or school access. It helps the team understand your child's needs and plan supports. So if your child has any medical needs or has a medical action plan, all of that information will be here. And this is an example of what it may look like in your child's IEP. Next, you will have graduation options and age of majority. As students get older, the IEP includes information about graduation pathways and the age of majority when students legally make their own educational decisions. And again, this is a copy of what they may look like in your child's IEP. Next, you have transition planning and interagency linkage. Transition planning helps students prepare for life after high school. This includes jobs, college, independent living, and community involvement. The youth voice is essential in this process. And this is an example of what it may look like in your child's IEP. Next, you have the progress part of it. You should receive updates on your child's progress throughout the year. This may be monthly, quarterly, or more often, depending on your child's needs. And again, this is what it may look like in your child's IEP, where it says progress on IEP goals, explanation for lack of progress. Next, you have the section for special considerations. This section includes things like behavior plans, assistive technology, communication needs, and other supports that may be required. And this is an example of what it looks like in your child's IEP. Next, you have the annual goals and benchmarks or short-term objectives. So once the foundation is set, you build the steps that lead into the house. These steps in the IEP document are the annual and short-term objectives. They answer the following questions. What skills does the student need to learn next? How will progress be measured? How will the team know that the student is growing? And how the student will move from the current level to new skills? Goals and objectives are based directly on the PLAAFP. They break big needs into clear, measurable steps. They show the path from where the student is now to where they need to go. And it guides the team in choosing the right supports. Goals and objectives should be SMART, meaning they should be specific, they should be measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Without steps, you can't get into the house. Without the goals and objectives, you cannot get to the supplementary aid, supports and aids the student needs. So this is an example of what the goals and objectives may look like in your child's IEP document. Next, you have the service and service levels. So once you climb the steps, you enter into the house itself. This is where the supplementary services and aids that help the students learn go. These include special education instruction, related services such as speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, counseling, supplementary aids and services, accommodations, modifications, assistive technology, behavior support, and transportation. These are the tools, furniture, and features that make the house livable and supportive for the student. They are chosen because of the goals, which comes from the PLAAFP. So you can see that everything connects. And this is an example of what services and service levels look like. This is an example of the service and service minutes and the service levels. So supplementary aids and services. These supports depend on your child's individual needs. They may include environmental supports, instructional supports, disability-specific tools, behavioral supports, classroom or testing accommodations, modified assignments, assistive technology. These supports help your child learn in the least restrictive environment. In regards to accommodations, accommodations changes how a child will learn. It allows the child to access the general education curriculum and setting. These are some examples of accommodations: preferential seating, extended time for testing, use of assistive technology, a scriber or note taker. On the other hand, you have modifications. Modifications change what the child will learn. It changes the curriculum to meet a child's individual needs. Some examples are open note testing, oral presentation or response, decreased or shortened assignments, alternative books or materials. And this is an example of what it may look like on your child's IEP. Extended school year. So also known as ESY. ESY is specialized instruction or related services provided outside the regular school year. ESY helps your child maintain skills, is based on data, is not guaranteed for every child, is individualized. Some things you might want to consider when thinking about ESY. ESY may not be at your child's home school. They may have a different teacher or bus driver, and this can be very stressful for some children. So if your child becomes easily overwhelmed or stressful or stressed out when they are in a different environment and with different people, then that is something to consider when thinking about requesting ESY. Next, we're going to go to the roof. And this is where placement, like the least restrictive environment is, the free appropriate public education, the student protections, and the prior written notice all are under. The last part of the house is the roof, which represents the student's educational placement, also known as the least restrictive environment or LRE, and the legal protections that keep the student safe. You can't choose a placement until the foundation, which is the PLAAFP, is clear. The steps, goals are built, and the inside support services are chosen. Placement is based on what the student needs, not on what the programs the school prefers or has available. The least restrictive environment and instructional setting means your child should learn with peers without disabilities as much as appropriate. The federal law says students should be included in general education to the maximum extent appropriate. Removal should only happen if the student cannot be supported in general education, even with supplementary aids and services. The key word is appropriate. What is suitable and right for your child? On the left is an example of what it may look like in your child's IEP. And on the right are the different options for from the least restrictive environment all the way up to the most restrictive environment. So now we're headed to the prior written notice. The prior written notice, or PWN, documents what the team proposed, what was accepted or rejected, the reasons why. The PWN should include all proposals, including those from the family. And here is a list of resources that you can look into for additional information. We are here to support you. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call, or you can also reach us on our website at www.parentsreachingout.org under our Contact Us page. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a good evening.